the modern day warfare techniques, hardware, military tech, and the military strategy with on which the military, the armed forces rely upon. So the point of focus today, right now, would be missiles, and so the kind of sources and information I have been able to put together and converse upon dealing with missiles in armed forces. It's been a crazy journey because actually up my ante. It's actually brought. It's actually gave me a different sense of judgment of how we as laymen also look up to the military arsenal and military hardware, because because this particular topic, missile, actually it's in various different segments which it has been divided, ranging from ballistic missiles to cruise missiles to surface to air missiles to air to air missiles to maybe anti-tank missiles to wire guided missiles to the rocket launcher missiles to unguided just unguided rocket propellant missile. So these particular missiles and missile arsenal have covered immense dimensions in warfare, in battlefields, and the segmentation within which it's divided, it's actually mind-boggling. So usually as laymen we have been what we usually hear in media or news is usually the ballistic missiles, which have the capacity to carry even the nukes, or maybe the cruise missile which navigate themselves, which could change direction in mid-air also, and find its path, and they are very pinpoint. So starting from ballistic missiles are the one which actually are similar to what even the likes of NASA's and especially India, ISRO, they take the similar technology what these aeronautical space agencies use. So it has to have that crazy firepower and propellant so as to push the missile in high altitudes. And although the space agencies would not want the spacecraft to come back on Earth in a very short period, ballistic missiles on the contrary have the capacity to reach high altitudes, and but what they are restricted to is a certain pathway. So they are restricted to their own trajectory, which on the contrary to the cruise missile, cruise missile have the capacity, they won't operate as on those high altitudes as the ballistic missile would do. Cruise missile would have the capacity to navigate themselves and change direction mid-air also, and they have the capacity to cruise through low altitude also, as to avoid the enemy air defense system. Ballistic missiles, in the sense, ballistic missile would have the capacity to fly as fast as possible. They are anyways hypersonic, but it's easy to track them because they have a very confirmed trajectory. Their trajectory could be judged to the radars very. It's not very difficult to have an idea of the trajectory with which the ballistic missile is traveling. But the cruise missile, on the contrary, they would stay low, and because of the spherical form of the Earth, it would be difficult for the radars to catch those cruise missiles, and they could navigate themselves at low altitude also, and which makes pretty difficult for the air defense system to strike them. And the speed with which the ballistic missiles could go through is insane. It's, I guess, it's already hypersonic, but ballistic missiles are actually would fly through supersonics and hypersonic speed to 10 to 15 to 20 times of what speed of sound would travel. And there are these cruise missiles which on the contrary wouldn't be very fast because they would be navigating themselves through the mid-air also, but still they also would maintain a speed higher than the speed of sound, supersonic speed. And they could have like some of the missiles, for example, what I've been get to is Kinzhal, the Russian Dagger missile, which are like cruise missiles, which are like a hybrid of cruise missiles and ballistic missiles, because so they are the hypersonic cruise missiles which could traverse through very very fast in hypersonic speeds, 5 times the speed, 3 to 5 times the speed of sound. So the speed of sound is considered as Mach 1, that is around 700 to 1000 kilometers 700,000 kilometers an hour, and these and then there are other varieties in missiles also which are there, and there are subsonic missiles also which would fly at not with this with the speed faster than sound, but a little bit lower than that. Even like subsonic speeds would be what our commercial aircrafts fly at, like for example 500-600 kilometers an hour, or so that is subsonic. That is just slower than what the speed of sound travels. And so there is subsonic speed with which the missiles operate. There is supersonic, there is hypersonic, and these are what I am talking about, the ballistic missiles and cruise missiles. Then there are other missiles also. For example, there are anti-tank missiles. For example, the wire-guided missiles, within which you could guide the missile through the wire also. So that's a technique still in use, but that's not a very recent technique. This has been used since 20 to 30 years, in 30 to 40 years in the military warfare structure. And so these wire-guided missiles would be guided through wire. The wire would remain attached when the missile is on its pathway, like in mid-air also, hunting to trying to take down different enemy armored vehicles or tanks or armored position, and the person behind the launcher of the missile could guide it through its telescope being fitted there. And because the wire is attached, so it has the constant signal being received through the operator, and the missile could have a pinpoint strike. Even if the target is moving, it could navigate itself and strike the target. Then comes the laser guided weapons. We have like, for example, the javelins, and similar to the missile such as javelin. And these anti-tank missiles wouldn't have a very huge range. They would be very short range but very accurate, because these are developed so as to strike in targets within a very short range of battleground. And and there are missiles which are there so as to counter these ballistic cruise missiles. Those are known as the surface to air missile, or even could be the air to air missile. So the fighter aircrafts have a very fast supersonic missile, hypersonic missile, which could intersect or counter targets mid-air also. For example, if there's a threat coming, if there's a mid-air cruise missile or ballistic missile happening, even a fighter jet has the capacity with its air-to-air missile, strike it, take down the object in mid-air. And there are surface-to-air missiles, for example, the S-300s, the S-400, the S-350, Vityas, the Patriot missiles, the German IRIS-T missiles, the Israel David Sling or Israel Iron Dome. These are very fast missiles which could navigate itself, similar to cruise missile, but on a very pinpoint accuracy, with a very pinpoint accuracy, and could take down targets mid-air also. So these are there to counter the other missiles which are there. So we have missiles, and we have counter missiles. So that is there we have, and and there are certain artillery shells also which have that jet propellant within it, and that actually extends the range of the artillery shell, and it has the capacity. Some of them are also known as the smart ammunitions, which has the capacity to lock the target through their laser locking system, and you could just dive into a particular target also. So these are the shells which I am talking about, being fired from the artillery gun, the big artillery gun. For example, the French Caesar guns, or means more different. The Finnish produced artillery guns, the similar to what the Bofors series looks like. These range from 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers to 40 to even 60. So usual artillery shell, also has its size varied from 105 millimeter in size to 155 millimeter size to even could go on the higher big bore shells also. And these get these somehow have been modernized into so these have specific ranges. Then there are certain shells which have been modified as jet propelled. So apart from the usual range to 30 to 40 kilometers to 50 kilometers, these would go on a higher 10 to 20 kilometers with a pinpoint accuracy, because they would just dive in, and they also could have a capacity to glide also. So right now we also have heard about the term as smart bombs. Smart bombs are also not missile, but the trajectory and the altitude with which they get dropped down through the aircraft, and they have the capacity to, they have the kits, they have the gliding kits attached, so they would just not fall randomly at any given target. They could glide themselves through covering multiple kilometers, and because the trajectory would be such, they could float around mid-air in higher altitude, and could find its target with a again laser guided range finder. So this, and there are again then so this we have shifted. Not this would These smart bombs wouldn't be considered a missile, but I'm just talking about the general aspect of how bombs have been modified in the warfare today. And then there are rocket launchers also. For example, the Indian Pinaka rocket launchers, which again have a good range. The American Atacams, the American the Russian Grad, the Uragan rocket launchers, Soviet Uragan rocket launchers, so these have ranges varying from 30 kilometers, 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers to even 300 kilometers. These are again short range ballistic missiles with a certain trajectory. So these rocket launchers would have features both unguided also and guided also. Guided would be again more on a more expensive side, so those would be less. And so these are the variations which we have got amongst different missiles and missile arsenal in modern day warfare structure. And hope this topic has kept you in focus, and generating that, and have been able to generate that curiosity for knowing more about what our modern day warfare consists about. Thank you so much.